All right, good afternoon. I want to thank everyone for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us today for our final installment of our Adventures in Field Research seminar series. We are thrilled to have Dr. Carlos Rojas with us here today from the University of Costa Rica, and he's going to give a presentation that he has called A Scientific Career in the Blue Zone of Happiness, Adventures, Friends, and Fun. Uh, so please do be aware that we'll have an opportunity at the end to ask questions and have conversation. So with that, we'll turn it over to Dr. Rojas.
Thank you. Well, I see a couple of faces that I know. There's a person there named Stevenson that I know too. It's good to see you. Yeah, this is it's a view of a scientific career. That's what I'm going to talk about. It's just a view of a career from a different part of the world. I am a Costa Rican scientist. I grew up here, and I ended up for a number of reasons in the United States studying and doing research with some of the people that join us today. And but you always carry with you some sort of the elements that shape your identity, and those elements are very much based on the place where you grow up. And that's why I wanted to, when Dr. Rollins asked me to give a talk for this seminar series in LMU, I thought that, instead of talking about data and showing you what I've done and things like that, I'd rather focus on a different side of a scientific career that sometimes we don't hear too much about, but I think it's as important, or perhaps for some people more important than the actual technical part of a scientific career. And that's why I decided to go in this direction. So in short words, about a decade ago, there was a researcher from the United States, Dan Buettner, and he got some grants from the National Geographic, and he started working in different parts of the world with a bunch of organizations trying to discover which places on Earth were the ones that promoted people to live the longest, and not only the longest, but also the longest and healthiest. In which places people could expect to live a long life and a healthy life. And they were investigating one potential area in Europe, in the Mediterranean area, in the island of Sardinia in Italy. And when they were doing this, when they were just working on this topic, they identified certain areas in the world where this could happen, potential areas where people lived long lives and healthy lives. And they took a blue Sharpie and they marked them in a world map. And that's why they are called blue zones. Nothing special, it was just a blue Sharpie. But since then, they have been getting attention from different people, and they have been subjected to all sorts of medical studies and social studies and things like that. And now there are several areas in the world where this happens. When they were doing this work, they realized that there is a small section of the country where I live, in Costa Rica, in the northern part of the country, in a region called Nicoya, where people not only lived a long life and a healthy life, they also lived a life that they considered very rewarding, and they felt that they were accomplished citizens. That area is Nicoya, and that's what I'm showing you here in the right here in the map. That's the area in Costa Rica. As you can see in this map, there are other areas. They found Okinawa in Japan, Sardinia, as I was telling you, in Italy. There is one in the United States, in the western part of the US, in California. It's a Seventh-day Adventist community. And they realized that all these people had different or had common habits or common elements, social, familiar, and cultural aspects that maybe were potential elements of life that would promote this long life, long, healthy life. The one that was very interesting when all this research came out 10, 15 years ago, the one that was very interesting in the country where I live was this one right here. The one that says the right tribe. Dan Buettner and all these researchers, they basically, they studied a lot of these social elements, and they realized that, well, there are 9 or 10 elements in common among all these areas. People don't eat too much. They do exercise on a constant basis, but not exercise in the sense of going to the gym, more like moving naturally every day and things like that. And as I was saying, they realized that people also looked for people that were just like them. And they teamed up, or they will team up with those people that had similar characteristics, and they will plan things together and move those plans forward. And I was just telling you that that particular lesson, or that particular aspect, was very interesting in Costa Rica. And it was very interesting because we are raised thinking that that's exactly what you should do. So for us, it made perfect sense. We are raised thinking that, well, you should always look for people that think similar or look similar, but not in the sense of, political positions or things like that, more in a philosophical sort of way. And so a scientist in this country is raised also thinking similarly. And the university system, the way we train our students and the way I was trained and the way the previous generations were trained, it's also based on similar elements. After realizing all these things, all these researchers back 15 years ago, they also figured out that, well, these people are not only living, or some of these people are not only living a long life and a healthy life, some of these people are also living a very happy life. They're happy citizens of Earth. And that's what they called the blue zones of happiness, in which also Costa Rica was mentioned. And that was very interesting because this area in the world wasn't only mentioned as one of those potential areas where people could live a long, healthy life, but also as one of those areas in the world where people could live a very accomplished and rewarding life, a very happy life in the end. So there was a lot of money being put into this type of research, into what are the elements that make people happy. And National Geographic, particularly around that time, put a lot of money on these issues. And the bottom line was, the phrase that I was showing you there. People in the world that feel happy, feel accomplished in life somehow, are people that find those things: something to do, someone to love, something to give, and something to look forward to. And the reason why I show you this is because I know what I'm talking about is not unique of a little country in Central America. I know there are plenty of places, and obviously in such a heterogeneous place like the United States, not only one little community in the western part of the country in California shows all these features. There are plenty of other communities across the U.S. where people are happy, and certainly other places in the world where people are happy. But reading this um, as a Costa Rican citizen and as a uh, Costa Rica-born scientist, it makes perfect sense because that's exactly the way, again, I was telling you, we are raised. Just in 1 minute, a couple of things of this country. What makes us proud? Why do we feel proud of this little place on earth? Costa Rica is an army-free country. In this country, the army was abolished in 1948, and since then, it doesn't mean we don't have issues with other countries. We do, but we learned that our way to solve the issues was more related to political discussions and negotiations than the use of force. And we are proud of that. We are very, very proud of that. In Central America, that certainly helped us in the 1980s when there were a lot of political and um, economic issues across Latin America. And this country was quietly there in the corner, thriving, or at least surviving without all these other issues that the other countries had. Something else that makes us happy, especially in the 21st century, is that about 99% of the energy in this country is produced from sustainable sources. And this is remarkable. The average for the last 30 years, it's about 98%. It doesn't mean we don't use fossil fuels to generate the electricity for the country. We have to, like any other country. But we put a strong effort and money, obviously, on the production of sustainable energy that we have accomplished a high rate of um, basically meeting the energy requirements for the country on a yearly basis from sustainable sources. Well, this is what we're talking about. It's according to something called the Happy Planet Index. Costa Rica ranks pretty high in the list of countries that are happy. And it's interesting because happiness is one of those elements in human life that is extremely hard to define and to put parameters to, because it's extremely subjective. Happiness is based on the person defining it, and but in a country like this one, happiness is certainly not based on material accomplishments or on career accomplishments. And this is part of the reason why a scientific career in a country like Costa Rica looks and feels a little different than in other places on Earth. I'm not trying to sell you a story here or anything like that. I'm just sharing with you the idea that, well, you know, one size doesn't fit all. A scientific career for some of you, if you have a competitive nature and things like that, well, a scientific career may take you in a direction that is very different to, where a career can take you if you don't have those personal um, um, skills or attitudes towards life. But either way, you can still make a scientific career. You can become a scientist and be very accomplished and be very happy of what you do. This country is a little sets the bar very high when it comes to sustainability and things like that. And at some point, it decided that it wanted to be the first carbon neutral country in the world. Well, we realized that it took a lot more than just good intentions to be actually to be the first. But we certainly are on a good path to become one of many countries that can maybe reach a carbon neutrality within the next 30 years or so. And the other reason why Costa Rica is famous for, and you guys have probably heard about this, well, it's because of the biological element. Costa Rica is one of those countries that has a lot of plant and animal species in a very small piece of land. And that's very remarkable too. So for a biologist or a scientist working in natural sciences or in biological sciences, this country is certainly a paradise for research. And we feel like that. So I want to ask just a quick question. Has someone here been to Costa Rica before? I know Dr. Rollins has been. I know Dr. Stevenson, who's listening, has been. But
I stopped on a port at Limon, I think is how you pronounce it. On a cruise, and it was awesome, incredible, just beautiful. Everyone was super friendly. So yeah, it's a really, really cool place. I would have loved to have stayed longer.
And actually, Limon is one of the places with the best food in the country. So you probably had good food there. Well, we have a slogan, and it's a marketing slogan these days. We say that Costa Rica is a land of Pura Vida. And Pura Vida, it's one of those expressions. It's one of those, became an idiom in Costa Rican Spanish. It's one of those expressions that is extremely hard to translate. If you're going to translate it literally, it means pure life. And that's, well, in a way, what we think of life and the approach we have on things. But it's such a complex term linguistically, because it really it reflects much more than just, the literal meaning. It reflects a lifestyle and the way we see the world. And one of my favorite definitions of Pura Vida came from a linguist that started studying these things, a linguist from outside of the country. His name, and I'm putting it here, his name is Stuart. He claims that the definition of Pura Vida, it's what he wrote here. And it's, again, my favorite definition, maybe because it comes from a person that was raised in outside of the country, and it's seen a lot of those elements of the use of Pura Vida in a more objective way. He defines Pura Vida in Costa Rica, the capturing, as you can see, it says Echeverria's essence of Pura Vida is the following. Much of the charm of this phrase comes from candor. It is a total denial of death, not in the sense of feigning immortality, but of refusing to acknowledge death in the body or mind at the present moment. I love it. That's exactly what we try to say every time we use the phrase. Is it doesn't matter what happened to you. It doesn't matter what happened a week ago or a month ago or a minute ago. Life is always nice. Life is always beautiful. Life is always something that is going to give you more than what it takes away from you. And that's the reason why we use, or that's the approach that most of locals have every time we use Pura Vida. So if you ever come to a country like this, you're going to realize that we say hi. Hi in Spanish is hola, but we rather not say hola. We use Pura Vida to say hola. Thank you. Well, we'd rather not use gracias, which is thank you in Spanish. We use Pura Vida. We use Pura Vida for everything. But again, seeing this definition, you can start feeling or getting a feeling of what these people in a small part of the world are actually thinking about, or where they're coming from every time they use it. It's a feast. Life is a feast. Life is happy. Life is nice. And again, why am I explaining all these things to you? It's because this is the way we are trained. Not only, the way we are raised, socially speaking, but when I mean trained, I mean scientifically trained. This is the way when we go to college to study. This is the approach that the whole system, the university system, the professors, the administrative people, and your peers, your students take on life. So for us, especially in a career in biology, for example, or in science, well, it's a party. So we need to celebrate. So in this little country, going to college and accomplishing that step, going to college and going to study something that you decided that you wanted to shape your future somehow, is fantastic. But as you see there, I'm showing you pictures of younger Carlos all over the place. That's younger Carlos over here. In all those pictures, we accomplish, or we feel that we accomplish a lot of. That's Carlos. That's Carlos. That's another Carlos, and the last one is actually behind that square. But one of the things that we do when we go to college, and this makes it a little different to other places on earth, is we learn a lot. Our training, our scientific career starts outside of the classroom and finishes outside of the classroom, probably. It's not that we don't take formal classes in a classroom environment. Of course we do, like anybody else. It's college in the end. But we put a lot of focus and a lot of our efforts, educational efforts, go towards promoting bonding, peer bonding, and all these social elements that help us become integrated researchers. When I was growing up here, I heard those faculty people in the university that you think they're like gods when you are in high school. I heard some of those people saying that one of the interesting things of countries like this one in terms of education is that we go to college, just as I'm showing you in that picture, with the rich, with the poor, with the over and underprivileged. We go, and our classmates and our peers are people of different backgrounds, different nationalities, different colors, different languages, different backgrounds in the end. And that makes us sensitive to all these other realities, and makes us sensitive not only to the problems and the issues that these other people have, but also makes us sensitive to realize that everybody wants to be happy, and that we can take a very important part on someone else's happiness. That basically, I am happy because there are people around me that promote my happiness, and I can be a promoter of happiness on someone else's life. So for us, when I go back to the point, when we start college is fantastic. Yes, we do focus on the academic part. We have to in the end. Otherwise, we wouldn't have engineers that know how to build a real structure, or things like that, or doctors that know how to save lives. So we do obviously pay attention to the academic part, and we try to be the best we can when we go to college, at least some of us. But the system is very encouraging in the sense of promoting social interaction and the realization that every person has a very different universe inside of their minds, and that it's only if we understand and we try to tolerate those multiple universes that we can actually work together, be happy, and accomplish things at a more at a bigger level. And I don't know, more than 20 years ago, I was in a field trip as a biology student, and 4 of my classmates, that they decided to just do one of those games where you put a music in the background and you pretend to sing. And that's what they were doing. We took a picture of it. And the reason why I'm showing you this is because it looks silly and it may look childish, but those 4 guys were creating a very important bond at that time among themselves and with the audience, which was us, their peers. And today, for me, it is very interesting and very funny in a way to see this picture, because as I'm showing you there on the slide, these 4 guys are pretty well recognized in the country. That guy in the end, it's a famous mastozoologist with in charge of a jaguar conservation program. This guy, famous cancer researcher, now leading a lot of the cancer research efforts in the country. This guy over here is now the director of the Marine Biology Research Institute in the whole country. And this guy became a really famous conservationist in an area called Monteverde. I'm pretty sure those 4 guys still talk to each other and still get feedback from each other. And a lot of their success, personal success in their careers, has been shaped not only by their past experiences, but also by the very interaction that they have among themselves. That's what I was telling you in the very first slide, that when Dan Buettner came up with the term the right tribe, that in those blue zones in the world, people have that sense of looking for the right tribe. That made perfect sense in a country like this, because that's what we do. And we do it all the time. That's what these guys were doing. They were creating their own tribe. And by doing so, they were shaping their own future, which is now, in the case of all 4 of them, pretty bright and successful. I'm going to introduce here, well, that's me, that's me, that's me, that's me. But if you see, there's another guy in common. That guy, he's here. He's right there in the field, and he's right here. That guy is one of my friends. His name is Randall Valverde. And Randall is not only, or hasn't only been, a friend of mine. He was my peer when I was a classmate, when I was constructing the first part of my career in biology in this country. He has been doing research with me for 20 years. We've been going all over the place. And this picture was actually this one. the one at the bottom here, that was actually the day I got married. He was there. We form these bonds with human beings that affect not only our personal lives, but also our scientific careers. You can see, well, those interactions were very fruitful in a way, in a scientific way. I have been able to do research and produced plenty of papers with Randall because we understand each other at a very human way. Even though I have to say that we are very different as human beings, we think very, very differently in a lot of ways in life. Our political views are different, our cultural background is different, the music we like is different, but that doesn't prevent us from interacting, you know, for 20 years and accomplishing a lot of things together, because we try to find, and this is my case, and I'm showing you my case, but this is a very classical case, let's say, of a scientist in a country like this. We try to look for someone that shares those core values, at least in science, that with you, and that can help you, you know, move along in your career. And I'm showing you other pictures because you develop those links and those elements, those bonding elements, not only with people in your own country in a scientific career. Of course, you build those things with other people. This is a picture, the one here, the one I'm scratching, is a picture in the Great Smoky Mountains, taken a while ago. That guy is me. That guy over here, that's Dr. Adam Rawlings. That's the week I met Dr. Rawlings in the Great Smoky Mountains in his backyard. And I happened to be there thanks to this one guy, Dr. Steve Stevenson, who is actually listening. So I'm going to take advantage of this and tell you, thank you very much for taking both Adam and me back then to that one place, because we have created a scientific career together thanks to you, or mediated, facilitated because of you. With Dr. Rawlings, we have shared, it's the same thing. We have shared a lot of personal things. Dr. Rawlings knows my family. I know his family. We had students in common. We had the responsibility, the shared responsibility of training other students when we were back in Arkansas in 2005, 2006 or so. And as you can see in this one picture, those bonds, they even move beyond boundaries. That's Dr. Rawlings, the one making the funny face. That's me. And the guy here in the middle, that's the same person who was here, Dr. Steve Stevenson. And we have created this group of people in common with common interests that have, in a way, promoted each other careers in different ways and have helped each other out in different ways. So as I was telling you, of course, the whole point of helping each other out and moving along with your peers, with the right tribe, is not unique of a little country like Costa Rica. It's much more universal, but it's certainly very nice when you go to other places and you realize that, oh, wait a second, even people with a completely different background, they have a different language. They grew up in a very different situation. They grew up in a very different generation. And we still share a lot of things in common, a lot of the scientific values, if you want to call them like that, or scientific approaches. We share them, and well, you create those tribes and you move forward. Very, very important and very fruitful too. There's been plenty of papers, again, because of this type of interaction. So growing up in a country, in a blue zone of life expectancy and in a blue zone of happiness, I realized that the system is very much centered on social interaction. Yes, we do care about achieving a successful career in terms of, you know, scientific discoveries and things like that. But those discoveries and whatever you do in your scientific career, it's always secondary to your life as a scientist. We care a lot more about living the life of a scientist in the sense of interacting with other people, meeting other people. It's great. It's fantastic. Becoming a scientist and pursuing a scientific career gives you great opportunities to publish tons of papers in different parts of the world with people you never had an idea, never thought that you were going to be interacting with. It gives you the chance of eating other types of food, even though I know Dr. Rollins and Dr. Stevenson aren't very fond of fish balls from Southeast Asia, but this type of career gives you a great opportunity to try different types of food, to meet different people, and to feel that you not only are a scientist from a small town or from a small state or whatever, or a small country, like in my case. No, you really become a global scientist. And that is certainly very happy and a reason to celebrate. I'm showing you a couple of other pictures of younger Carlos, which it's a little embarrassing to show you, tell you the truth, but I'm showing you this for a reason. Those two pictures are in my early 20s. This is kind of like hippie Carlos living in a tent at the beach and trying to discover himself. And this is a picture with a couple of friends back then. Yes, we do party when we're young. We are, in the end, human beings like anybody else, and we also have the same needs. We just want to have fun. But in a country like this, based on the educational system that we have, there is one small difference. See these two guys that I'm hanging out here with? During that trip, we sat down at the beach looking at the sunset, and we talked. We take opportunities when we're younger and we have our right drive in a way. We use those opportunities to discuss our very own lives in ways that I understand in other parts of the world, it's not very common. During that trip, those two guys and myself, we talked about who our hero in life is. If we ever had a person that we, considered our hero in life. And they mentioned whoever they mentioned. And but at that time, it made me think of, the question when I was looking at the sunset and my friends were asking me that question. It made me think, and it made me think a lot, to the point that I had to be resourceful, into looking for, who really is my hero. And I decided that at that point in my life, my hero was a British explorer of the early 20th century called Ernest Shackleton. For those of you who know a little of history, Ernest Shackleton was one of the early explorers of the South Pole of Antarctica. And he had, in one of his expeditions, his ship got stuck in the ice and it broke. And they were pretty much condemned to death, him and his crew. And for a number of reasons, they all survived. 23 or 24 of them survived the cold winters in the southern pole, and they were able to survive. And after the whole thing, they came back to the UK and they were asked, what was the element that made you survive? And it was and the crew basically mentioned that it was the determination of the captain, of Ernest Shackleton. And so when I was hanging out with my friends at the beach that time, I decided that I wanted my hero to be Ernest Shackleton because of that determination. I was talking to my wife a couple of weeks ago, and I was actually telling her, well, you know what, I still kind of values the determination of Ernest Shackleton, and I still do. I still think it's an interesting skill that he had that I can learn a lot from, for my scientific career. Because in a scientific career, well, yeah, it's frustrating in a lot of different ways, but the determination of reaching your goals, setting yourself some goals and reaching your goals and keep going on, moving on, it's certainly one skill that I want to have as a scientist. But it's also a skill that, again, it's very much facilitated to have when you, and I'm showing you here again, when you belong to the right tribe. So my biggest message as a scientist coming from a country where the right tribe is such a common sense issue is, well, just you certainly want to look for those individuals in life that can push you, that can boost your potential, so you can reach the best levels that you can accomplish. And not only that right tribe is important, but also what Dan Buettner calls here in this whole blue zone of happiness research, a sense of purpose. We do wake up, and I know it sounds cliche, but we do wake up thinking that we do have a sense of purpose, and that makes us happy. I feel accomplished when I do my little things, my little research, and my little, even though it may sometimes look ephemeral and not important at all. But it is important. I know it's important. And I am determined to convince myself that even the little things can make, of course, can have bigger impact in life and in society. So that Carlos of his early 20s didn't know what he was doing, but he was certainly hanging out with the right tribe in the pursuit of purpose in life. And those two things together, along with, well, some educational, some college training and other things, certainly made a very happy Carlos, a very happy scientist. That's a picture of the moon last night from, well, with some sort of artistic filter. But it's a picture of the moon last night. And it reminded me of one little thing. When I entered college, I didn't know which major to choose. And my mother looked at me and told me, just close your eyes and think of what makes you happy. And the memories went back to when I was camping with my peers, and I was maybe 8 or 9 in a national park in Costa Rica called Santa Rosa. And I was camping there, and I was looking at something very similar to what you're looking at in the screen. Full moon and some trees or plants there that I could only see the shape of because of the moon in the back. And then a wild pig just came walking, in my scene, in what I was looking at. the wild pig just came and looked at me. And I, as a kid, it impacted me so much. I looked at the eyes of that little pig, well, maybe not that little. I looked at the eyes of that wild pig, and I decided that that's what I wanted. I wanted to live a life where I wanted to study nature. And here I am years later, feeling that I am an accomplished citizen and an accomplished scientist and an accomplished human being because I chose the right path for me, which was exactly that, to be in the field studying nature. Well, I didn't end up studying pigs. I ended up going to college in a university that is famous for the Razorbacks, but I ended up studying something else. So a scientific career in a country like this is very nice, very accomplishing, very happy. And it's one of those things in life where you realize that for us, like for a bunch of other people on earth, but for us, happiness as a concept is at the core of your decisions. So taking a decision, it's actually quite easy. You simply go and pursue your personal happiness. And life has a ton of different opportunities out there. But we don't cry when we lose opportunities somehow because we know, well, this one wasn't for me, but there's going to be another one that is for me. And so as long as I focus on happiness and do things in a way, the right way, other doors are going to open and even better opportunities are going to come. So my happiness is now, or oscillates now around these little critters. These, in a way, this, goes around these little critters, the slime molds. Well, I'm cheating here. That's not a true acellular plasmodial slime mold, but let's call them like that. And I go back to this moment. That's a picture, this one picture right here. That's a picture of the one trip to the Smoky Mountains in the early part of this century. That's me, of course, the one guy with the brown skin. And that's Dr. Adam Rawlings. That's Dr. Steve Stevenson, a couple of researchers here that also helped us shape our views on myxomycetes. Yes, we collected myxomycetes in the Great Smoky Mountains and learned the diversity of these critters, and Adam and myself were developing a sense of the diversity of the group. But of course, we also had fun. That's me again. And that's Dr. Rawlings sitting on the same table, eating, just having fun. That's the way we've been doing it for years because, again, happiness is at the core of our scientific careers. And for me, again, this whole ride as a scientist, as a person studying slime molds, among other things, has been very happy also because I have been able to see beautiful, beautiful, beautiful elements of life on Earth. And I trained my brain, I trained my eyes to look for them and to find them where a lot of people can't see anything. So I want to believe that that's a metaphor for life. I can see things where a bunch of people can't see a lot. But that doesn't mean those people can't learn to see them. Of course they can. I'm happy, and I'm very happy that these guys are a very central element of my life. And as you can see, well, yeah, I've had fun all over the place. I feel accomplished. Everything is nice. I have found right tribes in this country, outside of this country. I have friends all over the place, and I feel as a very happy scientist. That also, well, as you can see there, has produced a few papers on slime molds and has contributed to the development of research on Earth. And the even greater thing is that when you do this kind of research, of course, I'm focusing on slime molds, but you end up doing so much more than just this, and you end up contributing to the conservation of, at least in my case, the conservation of resources anywhere I go by documenting just one small group of organisms on Earth. And again, you make pretty good friends. I have to say that I consider Dr. Rollins a very good friend of mine and a very good colleague, and Dr. Stevenson a fantastic mentor for both our careers, and a great a friend now in this part of our careers. So yes, a scientific career can be very nice, can be very happy. And I think the lesson that I can probably share with you, the trick that I can share with you from a little happy country down in Central America, is to focus on those, build your career around those elements that make you happy, and find the right tribe, find those right individual elements that can actually boost your career and that you can be a boost for. So without that, I don't want to talk anymore. I want to thank you for your attention.
People have to turn on their mics to applaud, won't they?
Well, thank you, Dr. Rojas, very much. Appreciate
it. A couple of us will applaud.
A great lesson, I think. We don't often consider the humanistic aspect and how important it is that we are individuals and human beings, and we need to make connections, networking, whatever you want to call it, an incredible important aspect of overall life and happiness. I'll lead the questions. I'm curious, you have been many places on this planet. Can you give us a top 3 lists of places we have to visit? A bucket list of visit places.
Oh, there's a better person here to answer that. But of the places I know, the one place that I highly valued, that I visited once and I want to go back to, is Machu Picchu in Peru. I think it's a fantastic place. It's one of those places on Earth that is great. In the United States, I'm biased, I guess, because of the experiences I have lived, but I think one of the greatest places in the US is the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. I really love that place. I find a lot of inspiration over there. And one time I had the chance to go with you, Dr. Rollins, to Devil's Tower in Wyoming, and I think it's also a very nice place.
Adam, I will say that I don't think I would be very comfortable in the Tennessee tribe.
Oh yeah, what can you give us a top 3 list of places to visit that you have to see?
Top 17 or top 3? Well, I think you know what number 1 is. New Zealand. I don't encourage people to go to New Zealand. I don't want it to be crowded. But no, New Zealand is right up there. Some of the, well, since my wife just walked by, I'd say Norfolk Island would be one of my favorite places. I've been there only once, been a couple of weeks, but it's isolated, very few people, clean. It's a wonderful place. It's an overseas territory of Australia. Number three. Number three, right, might be mountains of eastern central West Virginia. I've spent a lot of time there, and I mean, that's, people say, well, that doesn't sound very exciting. Well, it is from a biological point of view. I mean, I've spent many hours in those forests collecting and studying this or that. So, I mean, it's really hard for me to reduce it down to three. There have been a lot of nice places.
But we agree on one thing, and it's the Appalachian Mountains.
Well, there's some nice places in Costa Rica too. I don't really want to neglect that. And Thailand wasn't bad either.
Mm-hmm.
So no, there are a lot of nice places in the world. And well, I actually gave my last lecture in plant biology this morning. Had only 2 students left in the course. Really, I'm that hard. No, there are more than that. Okay. But I finished up the course by actually giving about a 10-minute sort of, well, where do you want to go in life? In other words, what path are you going to follow? And well, I didn't use some of the terminology or the concepts that Carlos has used, but basically take advantage of the people that you come in contact with. In other words, your professors, your mentors, take advantage of them, learn what you can, do what you can. And I talked about basically throwing out how I'd been affected by, well, my major professor way back when, and some of the things, the fact that I'd chosen slime molds to work with, and although I work with more things, but slime molds is what I'm known for, and I showed them a couple of exciting things and some wildflowers, and talked about overall biodiversity on this earth and how we need to assess it, and talked about the ATB on the Smokies, believe it or not, and a Mixo Blitz that we held in 2016. I mean, little things like that. I mean, and I'm sure that they left wondering whether I was crazy or not. I don't think they wondered; they already knew. But no. You take advantage of opportunities and people. Bottom line.
Yeah, that's exactly the way it is.
But there's some tribes that are more comfortable to be with than others.
That's certainly true. Dr. Rojas, let me ask you this. In terms of the impact that being active or being in the field relative to your college courses, how major of an impact do you think that had on your overall career trajectory?
For me, a great impact. But that's also because I am a field biologist. And so I have based my career in the field. I have an office at the university that I rarely use because I don't consider myself an office kind of guy. But for me, a very, very great impact, not only in terms of making me appreciate the little and big things of nature and giving me peace, inner peace, because I really like being outdoors, but also in terms of allowing me, as I was saying earlier, to see elements of life that a lot of people are simply oblivious to. You know, I like that I chose a career in which I get paid literally to study wildlife, to document it in different parts of the world, and to see the different shapes and colors and forms that the biodiversity on the planet come in.
I learned one thing about you. You were inspired by a pig, and I've never really run into anyone.
I was inspired by a pig, yes.
Well, a pig farmer maybe, but I definitely was not inspired by a pig.
All right, we have time, looks like, for one more question. Anyone else that's with us have a question or a comment?
So I have one quick question. I'm a food person, so you pinned me real quick when I talked about my time in Costa Rica. What's your favorite cuisine? Like, what's your favorite dish you've had somewhere, Dr. Rojas?
Ooh,
black beans and rice.
Well, I really enjoy black beans and rice, but that's a lot more cultural than anything else. I pretty much eat that, on a weekly basis. Um, it's a very hard question because I've had so many good things all over the place. But I have to say that when both Dr. Rollins and Dr. Stevens and myself have done research or did research in Thailand, Thai food was among the best I've ever had. Just like that, street Thai food that you get,
Yeah.
fantastic flavors, very, very nice.
Awesome. And I did just want to say thank you. This was awesome and super just uplifting and refreshing. And I know I can speak for all of us. We kind of need some positivity. And so thank you very, very much. I really, really enjoyed this.
Oh, thank you. You're welcome.
I will say one thing. I remember the street that you're talking about,
Yeah.
and there are certainly some things that you tried that I did not try that are kind of unique. Would you like to share with folks some of the less common things that you tried on that street?
Well, Adam didn't want to try bamboo worms, for example, or little whole fish, fried fish, or things like that. Some insects that I was a little more adventurous. I still am probably, and I tried those things, but we all shared that Thai people, they highly regard these balls, this kind of like dough balls with fish flavor that they call fish balls. And both Dr. Rollins, Dr. Stevens, and myself didn't like him that much. We don't quite have the feeling for those balls. So those I didn't like that much. But all the fried insects and worms and things like that, yeah, those were fine.
How about the chicken tenders?
The chicken, yeah, the chicken tendons.
Wait a minute. I got a word wrong, I think.
Yeah, that was me arriving after, well, basically 2 days of travel and looking at an English translation that said chicken tenders, but it was nothing like chicken tender. It was actually chicken tendons.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone had to share their meals with me afterwards, or I would have starved. So all right. Well, I want to thank everyone for attending. It's been a wonderful to have Dr. Rojas here with us. I want to thank everyone for their time here. I want to just thank everyone for attending. I want to thank Lainey and John for working on this throughout this semester. It's been a wonderful series, and I can think of no one just a wonderful person, Dr. Rojas, to finish off this series, and with a much needed message that's important, especially given our current time and situation. So with that, I thank everyone. Everyone have a great day, and a great rest of the semester, and a great rest of the year. And thank you for attending the seminar this year. Goodbye.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay. Adios. Goodbye.